The rain was falling hard that afternoon when Keto found something that would change his life forever. The capuchin monkey was running desperately through the trees of the tropical forest, fleeing from a jaguar that had just killed his mate and their 2 offspring. His screams echoed through the jungle as tears mixed with the rain on his face. Everything he loved had disappeared in a matter of minutes. For 3 days, Keto did not eat. He did not sleep. He only wandered through the forest like a lost spirit, repeatedly returning to the place where his family had been massacred. The pain was so deep that he considered letting himself be captured by the same predator. Why keep living when everything that mattered was dead? It was on the 4th day that he heard it. A faint cry, almost inaudible, coming from a bush near the river. Keto approached cautiously and froze. There, shivering from cold and hunger, was a lion cub. It could not have been more than 2 weeks old. Its eyes were still half closed, its fur soaked, its belly sunken from hunger. Keto's instinct screamed at him to run. Lions were predators, natural enemies, but something stronger held him there. The cub was crying exactly the way his own babies used to cry. The same frequency, the same desperation, the same need for care. Keto looked around for the cub's mother, but there was no one. Hyena tracks surrounded the area. The lioness had certainly been attacked and killed. Keto extended his trembling hand and touched the cub. The little lion, feeling the warmth, clung to Monkey's fur with its tiny claws. At that moment, something inside Keto broke and rebuilt itself at the same time. He took the cub into his arms, warmed it against his chest, and for the first time in days, felt that he had a reason to keep breathing. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Tell us in the comments what you think and which city or country you're watching from. But Keto had no idea what he was about to face because of that impossible decision. Keto carried the cub up to a high hollow in an ancient tree, far from the forest floor. He chewed fruits until they became a pulp and fed the little lion the sweet mash. The cub, whom Keto began to call Tao, sucked the mixture with surprising strength. With each passing day, the cub's eyes opened more and his body grew stronger. But keeping Tao alive was only half the problem. The real threat emerged 2 weeks later, when Keto needed to climb down to fetch water. He was not alone in the forest. Other monkeys from his former group watched him from a distance, confused and suspicious. Soon, the news spread like dry fire. Zara, the group's matriarch, was the first to confront him. She was an old monkey with graying fur and a piercing gaze. She had led the group for more than 15 years, and her decisions were law. When she appeared in Keto's tree, her face showed no compassion. "You have lost your mind," she said, watching Tao sleep curled against Keto's chest. "What you are raising will kill us one day. Lions destroy our species. You are feeding our own death." Keto tried to explain, but the words came out weak. How could he make Zara understand that this cub was not just a predator, but a second chance to be a father? How could he explain that caring for Tao was the only thing keeping his heart beating? "You have until the full moon to choose," Zara declared, pointing at Tao. "Either he goes or you go. We cannot allow a lion to grow among us. When he is truly hungry, he will remember what he is, and he will devour us one by one." Zara's words echoed in Keto's mind for days. He watched Tao grow, his small teeth beginning to appear, his claws growing sharper. The cub played innocently, but Keto knew that Zara was partly right. Lions were carnivores. One day, Tao's instinct would awaken. The question that tormented Keto was not whether Tao would become a predator. It was what he would do when that day came. Keto did not sleep that night. While Tao snored softly beside him, the monkey made a decision that seemed impossible. He would not abandon Tao, but he also could not condemn him to live among monkeys forever. There was only one solution, as painful as it was. In the following days, Keto began to act in secret. In the mornings, he took Tao to more distant regions of the forest, always heading south, where he had spotted other lions months earlier. He observed Tao's behavior closely, noticing how the cub tried to imitate his movements, how he climbed trees clumsily, how he communicated through high-pitched sounds that were not roars, but monkey-like squeaks. "You need to learn who you really are," Keto whispered, knowing that Tao did not understand the words, but perhaps felt the intention. Keto began to teach Tao to be a lion. He scratched the ground to show how to mark territory. He growled low to teach threatening sounds. He brought pieces of meat found from abandoned carcasses, forcing Tao to taste them, even though the cub preferred the sweet fruits that Keto chewed for him. It was during one of these expeditions that something extraordinary happened. Keto spotted a solitary lioness in the distance, drinking water from a stream. She looked thin, tired, and there was something familiar in her movements. When she turned, Keto saw it. Her teats were swollen, full of milk, but there were no cubs around. Keto's heart raced. That lioness had also lost her cub. He watched her for 3 consecutive days, always hidden, always cautious. The lioness wandered alone, searching for something, calling out for someone who never answered. It was the sign Keto had been waiting for. But bringing Tao close to that lioness would be the most dangerous moment of all. If she rejected him, Tao would die. If she accepted him, Keto would have to say goodbye forever. For an entire week, Keto prepared Tao without the cub knowing. He rubbed dirt and leaves into his fur to remove his own scent. He gradually reduced the amount of food he offered, forcing Tao to feel real hunger. And every night, Keto held the cub against his chest, memorizing every detail of that warm body, knowing that time was running out. Dawn arrived gray when Keto decided it was time. He carried Tao in his arms for the last time, walking toward the stream where the lioness usually appeared. Each step felt like a piece of his soul being torn away. Tao played with Keto's fingers, unaware that these were their last moments together. When they reached the water's edge, Keto placed Tao on the ground and hid behind a fallen log. His plan was simple. Leave Tao alone, make noise to attract the lioness, and hope that her maternal instinct would be stronger than anything else. But what happened next shattered all his plans. Zara emerged from the shadows with 5 other monkeys from the group. Her eyes shone with anger and determination. "You didn't choose," she said, advancing toward Tao. "So we chose for you." Keto leapt in front of the cub, arms outstretched, protecting Tao with his own body. "Don't touch him. You are a traitor." Zara spat the words. "That animal will grow and hunt us. We will end this now." The monkeys attacked. Keto fought like he had never fought in his life. He scratched, bit, screamed, but it was 6 against 1. They threw him aside, and Zara ran toward Tao. That was when the lioness appeared. She burst from vegetation like a golden lightning bolt, roaring with a fury that made the ground tremble. Zara froze. The other monkeys scattered in panic, climbing the nearest trees. The lioness positioned herself over Tao, shielding the cub with her massive body, growling deadly threats. Keto, bleeding and injured, watched everything from a distance. Tao, frightened by the roar, curled up and cried. The lioness lowered her muzzle and sniffed him. Her eyes softened. She licked the cub's face once, twice, 3 times. Tao stopped crying. Slowly, he moved closer to her and began to nurse. Keto felt tears burn his eyes. Zara and the others had fled. Tao was safe. The lioness had accepted him. The plan had worked, but not in the way Keto had imagined. He stood up with difficulty, looked at Tao one last time, and began to walk away. Each step was agony, but it was necessary. Keto returned to the empty tree that night. The silence was deafening. There was no longer Tao's soft snoring, no longer the warm weight against his chest, no longer a purpose. He curled up alone and cried until he fell asleep. The following months were the hardest of his life. Keto avoided the group, foraged alone, slept in isolation. But something strange began to happen. Other monkeys, especially the younger ones, started to seek him out. They had heard the story of a monkey who raised a lion. Some came out of curiosity, others out of respect. Zara never confronted him again. In fact, she kept her distance, and Keto noticed something in her eyes when they crossed paths. It was no longer contempt, but something like understanding. She had also lost offspring. She also knew that pain. 6 moons later, Keto was gathering fruit when he heard a distant roar. His heart raced. He knew that sound. He ran toward the call and, from the top of a tree, saw Tao for the first time since the separation. The cub had grown. He was bigger, stronger, with golden fur shining in the sun. He was playing with the lioness who had adopted him, rolling in the grass, pretending to hunt. He was a real lion now. Happy, complete. Tao stopped playing and looked in Keto's direction. Their eyes met for a long moment. Was there recognition there? Keto would never know. But Tao tilted his head slightly, almost like a gesture of thanks, before returning to play. Keto smiled through the tears. That was enough. He had done the right thing. Saving Tao had never been about possessing him, but about giving him the chance to be who he was born to be. That night, Keto returned to the group. For the first time in months, he slept near the others. And when the rain began to fall, he felt not only sadness, but also peace. Sometimes, loving means letting go. Sometimes, the greatest sacrifice is not dying for someone, but living without them so they can thrive. If this story moved you, subscribe to the channel and like the video. Tell us in the comments what you thought and where you're watching from. Your presence here means a lot. The story of Keto became a legend in the forest, proof that true love transcends even nature itself.